The champagne flute trembled in my palm as I watched my sister Marina glide across the marble floor of the Ritz-Carlton's grand ballroom. Her custom Vera Wang gown trailed behind her like liquid silk. 200 guests had gathered to witness her fairy tale wedding to Christopher, a brilliant investment banker she'd met only 6 months ago. I couldn't help but notice the irony that she was marrying for money while demanding mine. I'm Vivian, 22 years old, and I've worked my way to where I am now. While Marina was busy playing house with multiple boyfriends in her early 20s, I was pulling all-nighters in law school and working 70-hour weeks at a top Manhattan firm. Last year, I graduated summa cum laude and landed a position that allowed me to purchase a penthouse overlooking Central Park. Everyone now claimed it belonged to them. Vivian, darling, you look absolutely radiant. My mother, Catherine, approached with her typical fake smile, the one she reserved for when she wanted something. Her silver hair was perfectly coiffed, and she wore a navy dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. We need to have a little family chat. My stomach dropped. Family chats in the Hamilton household were never good news. Mom, it's Marina's wedding day. Can't whatever this is wait? Actually, no. My father Richard appeared beside her, his expression stern. At 58, Dad still commanded attention in his fitted tuxedo, but his eyes held the unmistakable disappointment that had haunted me since childhood. We've been discussing your living situation. My living situation? I set down my champagne, realizing I needed both hands free. What about my living situation? Well, honey, Mom's voice took on that sickeningly sweet tone. You know how Marina and Christopher are starting their family? They're going to need more space than that tiny apartment Christopher's been renting. I blinked. They're not even pregnant yet, Mom. But they will be soon. Marina's voice carried over our little circle as she joined us, her new husband's arm around her waist. At 26, she was undeniably beautiful, with auburn hair and green eyes, but her expression was calculating, and it made my skin crawl. We're planning to start trying right away. Congratulations, I said cautiously. I'm sure you'll find a lovely place to raise your family. We already have, Marina replied, her smile bright. We want your penthouse. The words hit me like a physical blow. Excuse me? Now, Vivian, before you get all defensive, Dad jumped in, his voice taking on that patronizing tone he used when he thought he was being reasonable. Think about this logically. You're a single woman. You don't need all that space. Marina and Christopher, on the other hand, are starting a family. They need room for children, for their future. You want me to give up my home? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The home I'd worked years to afford. Not give up, Mom hastily corrected. Trade. You could take Christopher's apartment. It's perfectly adequate for one person. A 600-square-foot studio in Queens? I asked bluntly. You want me to trade my 3-bedroom penthouse on the Upper West Side for a studio apartment in Queens? Vivian, don't be so dramatic, Marina chided. It's not like you even use all that space. What do you need 3 bedrooms for? You don't even have a boyfriend. The comment stung, just as she'd intended. Marina had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. They'd called her adventurous for dropping out of college to find herself. They'd referred to her career and relationship changes as exploring her options. When I graduated summa cum laude from law school, they'd worried I was working too hard. I need those bedrooms because it's my home, I replied, my voice rising slightly. I earned it, I paid for it, and I'm not giving it up. Vivian Elizabeth Hamilton, Mom's voice turned sharp. That is incredibly selfish. Family comes first, always. Family? I laughed bitterly. Have any of you ever treated me like family? When I needed help studying for the bar exam, you said I was being antisocial. When I started my practice and struggled, you called me irresponsible. When I finally succeeded, you acted like it was luck. That's not true, Dad said, but his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? When was the last time any of you asked about my life, my career, my happiness? But the moment I have something you want, suddenly I'm family again. Marina stepped forward, her face flushed with anger. You know what your problem is, Vivian? You've always been jealous of me. You can't stand that I'm getting married, that I'm going to have the family you'll never have. I'm not jealous of you, Marina. I'm disappointed in you. Disappointed? She laughed harshly. You're disappointed in me? I'm the one getting married. I'm the one who's going to give Mom and Dad grandchildren. What have you done besides make money? I've built a life, I said quietly. I've worked hard for everything I have. I've never asked any of you for anything. Well, now we're asking something of you, Dad said firmly. Your sister needs that penthouse more than you do. It's time you did something for your family instead of just yourself. Richard's right, Mom said, raising her voice. Selfish children don't deserve success. You've had everything handed to you, and now you won't even help your own sister. The accusation was so ridiculous I almost laughed. Handed to me? I worked 3 jobs to pay for law school. I lived on ramen noodles for 2 years while building my practice. I've never asked you for a dime. Your sister's children need real homes, Dad said loudly enough for several nearby guests to turn and stare. Not some cramped apartment. They deserve better. They're not even conceived yet, I protested, but I knew I was losing this battle. My family had always been brilliant at making me feel guilty about my accomplishments. Marina moved closer, her voice low and vicious. You know what, Vivian? I'm done pretending to care about your feelings. I've always known I was the better daughter. I'm prettier, I'm more likable, I'm the one who makes Mom and Dad proud, and now I'm finally getting what I've always deserved. The words hung in the air between us, a challenge. Around us, wedding guests began to gather, sensing drama. Some were openly staring now, their conversations dying as they focused on our family argument. What you've always deserved, I said softly. And what exactly is that, Marina? Everything, she replied simply. The penthouse, the respect, the life you've been hoarding for yourself. I deserve it all, and I'm finally going to get it. Over my dead body. The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. Marina's palm connected with my cheek with a sharp crack that echoed across the ballroom. For a moment, the sound seemed to freeze everything. 200 guests fell silent, their conversations breaking mid-sentence as they turned to watch the spectacle unfolding before them. Then, the laughter began. It started with a few scattered chuckles from Marina's friends, who had always looked down on me for being too serious, too focused on work. But it spread like wildfire through the crowd. Guests who didn't even know me were laughing, pointing, whispering behind their hands. Did you see that? She actually slapped her. About time someone put Vivian in her place. I always knew she was stuck up. My cheek burned, but I didn't cry. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Instead, I stood there, feeling the weight of 200 pairs of eyes on me, listening to their laughter, their whispered comments, their judgment. Marina smiled triumphantly. Maybe now you'll start acting like a real sister. Mom and Dad stood behind her, not apologizing for their daughter's behavior, not defending me. They just watched, waiting to see if I'd finally cave to their demands. That's when I realized something important. This wasn't just about the penthouse. This was about keeping me in my place, reminding me that no matter how successful I became, no matter how hard I worked, I would always be the disappointment, the one who didn't matter. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had humiliated me in front of 200 witnesses, including some very powerful people from New York's legal and business communities. People who knew me, respected me, and had seen what I was capable of. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. My hands were remarkably steady despite the rage coursing through my veins. Without speaking, I began typing. Vivian, what are you doing? Mom asked nervously. I ignored her and continued typing. The people around us began laughing less, as they noticed I wasn't reacting as expected. I wasn't crying or running away in humiliation. I was doing something else entirely. Vivian, put that away, Dad said. You're embarrassing yourself. No, I said quietly, still typing. I'm not the one who should be embarrassed. Marina tried to grab my phone, but I stepped aside and hit send just as her fingers touched the screen. What did you do? She hissed. I looked up at her, at my parents, at the crowd of guests who were still watching us with fascination. I chose the revenge that would silence you forever. Their confused expressions were almost comical. They had clearly expected me to either give in to their demands or break down crying. They hadn't expected me to fight back. My phone buzzed with a response, then another, then several more in rapid succession. Vivian, what did you send? Mom's voice became shrill, panic creeping in. I smiled, the first genuine smile I'd felt all evening. I sent a message to my group chat. You know, the one with all my lawyer friends, the journalists I've worked with, the business contacts I've made over the years, the people who actually matter in this city. Marina's face went white. What kind of message? Just a little update about tonight's events. How my family demanded I give up my penthouse to my sister and her new husband. How my mother screamed that selfish children don't deserve success. How my father said my sister's hypothetical children needed real homes more than I do. How my sister slapped me in front of 200 people because I wouldn't hand over my life's work. The ballroom had gone completely silent. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. I also mentioned how everyone laughed when I was assaulted. I said, my voice clearly audible over the hush. How funny they found it that a successful woman was being put in her place by her family. Vivian, you need to delete that right now, Dad warned, his voice dangerously low. I shrugged. Delete what? The truth? Too late anyway. It's already been shared. You know how social media works, Dad. Once something's out there, it's out there forever. My phone was now continuously buzzing with messages of support, outrage on my behalf, and requests for more information. The story was spreading faster than I had anticipated. You vindictive bitch, Marina screamed, her voice shaking. No, Marina, I'm just done being your doormat. Christopher, who had been silent throughout the argument, finally spoke up. Vivian, maybe we can work something out. We didn't mean for things to go this far. I looked at him with pity. You married into the wrong family, Christopher. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. What do you mean? He asked, genuine confusion in his voice. I mean, your new wife and in-laws just made some very powerful enemies. Do you know who Judge Eleanor Vance is? She was here tonight. She saw everything. She's already texted me her disgust at your wife's behavior. Marina's face went from white to green. Judge Vance was one of New York's most respected judges, known for having zero tolerance for entitled behavior, and David Martinez from the Times. He's been following me around all evening trying to get an interview about my latest case. He saw the whole thing. He's asking if I want to comment on how successful women are treated by their families. Vivian, stop, Mom pleaded. You're going to ruin Marina's wedding. Marina ruined her own wedding when she decided to assault me in front of 200 people. It was just a slap, Marina protested. You're being dramatic. It was assault, Marina, and it was witnessed by 200 people, including several lawyers, a judge, and apparently a reporter. My phone rang. I looked at the screen and smiled. Oh, this is interesting. It's Amanda Walsh from Walsh & Associates. You know, the law firm that handles high-profile reputation management cases. She's offering her services pro bono. Marina's face drained of all color. In New York society, reputation management was code for damage control. And if Amanda Walsh was calling, it meant the story had already moved beyond my immediate circle. Vivian, please, Marina said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hit you. I was just emotional. You're sorry? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're sorry that there are consequences to your actions. You're sorry that you can't just take whatever you want from me without pushback, but you're not sorry for what you did. I am sorry, she insisted. I'll apologize publicly. I'll tell everyone it was a mistake. Too late for that. The damage is done. And it was. I could see it in the faces of the people around us. The laughter had stopped completely, replaced by uncomfortable whispers and pointed stares. People who had previously found my humiliation amusing now looked at Marina with disgust. The social media posts were already going viral. And in New York's elite circles, reputation was everything. What do you want? Dad asked quietly, defeat clear in his voice. I want you to leave me alone, I said simply. All of you. I want you to stop treating me like an ATM. Stop expecting me to sacrifice my happiness for Marina's convenience. And stop pretending that family means anything to you beyond what you can get from me. Vivian, we're still family, Mom whispered. No, we're not. Family doesn't demand you give up your home. Family doesn't scream at you in public. Family doesn't assault you at a wedding. Family supports each other, celebrates each other's successes, and treats each other with respect. You've never done any of those things for me. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from my assistant. Vivian, TMZ is calling. They want to know if you're the lawyer who was assaulted at the Ritz-Carlton wedding. What should I tell them? I held up the phone so everyone could read the message. TMZ is calling. This is about to become a very public story. Marina started crying, her perfect makeup streaming down her cheeks. Vivian, please. This is my wedding day. Don't ruin it. I'm not ruining anything, Marina. I'm just refusing to be your victim anymore. What can we do? Christopher asked desperately. How do we fix this? I looked at him, then at my parents, then finally at my sister, who was sobbing in her wedding dress. You can't fix this, Christopher. This is who they are. This is what they do. They take and take and take until there's nothing left, and when you finally say no, they attack you for it. The ballroom was starting to empty now. Guests were making excuses and slipping away from what was clearly a family disaster. Marina's beautiful wedding was unraveling, and everyone wanted to distance themselves from the chaos. The penthouse is mine, I said firmly. I earned it, I paid for it, and I'm keeping it. If you want to live somewhere nice, Marina, get a job. Work for it like I did. I can't believe you're doing this, she sobbed. I can't believe it took me this long. As I turned to leave, Dad grabbed my arm. Vivian, wait, we can work this out. Family counseling, mediation, whatever you want. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then up at his face. Let go of me, Dad. He released me immediately, clearly realizing the optics of physically restraining me after what had just happened. There's nothing to work out, I told them. You made your choice tonight. You chose Marina over me, just like you always have. You chose her convenience over my hard work. You chose her demands over my boundaries. And when I said no, you chose to watch her assault me rather than defend me. We didn't know she was going to hit you, Mom protested. But you didn't stop her. You didn't apologize. You didn't even check if I was okay. You just stood there and let it happen. I started walking toward the exit, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Behind me, I could hear Marina's sobs, Mom's frantic whispers, and Dad's angry muttering. But I didn't look back. At the door, I turned around one last time. The once grand ballroom now looked like the scene of a disaster. Wedding guests were clustered in small groups, whispering and pointing. The bride was crying in her ruined makeup. The groom looked shell-shocked, and my parents were trying to contain damage that was already spiraling out of control. You know what the funny thing is? I called out, my voice echoing across the nearly empty room. I would have helped you if you'd asked nicely. If you'd come to me with respect, if you'd treated me like family instead of like a bank account, I would have helped you find a nice place to live. I might have even helped with the down payment. The silence that followed was deafening. But you didn't ask for help. You demanded my home. You screamed at me, insulted me, and then physically attacked me when I said no. So now you get nothing. I walked out of the Ritz-Carlton with my head held high, leaving behind the wreckage of my sister's wedding and my family's reputation. As the elevator doors closed behind me, I could still hear the chaos in the ballroom. Muffled voices, crying, and the scraping of chairs against marble as the remaining guests hurried to leave. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting back at someone. Sometimes it's simply refusing to let them get away with it. Sometimes it's standing up and saying, "No, you don't get to treat me like this anymore." And sometimes that's enough to change everything. The silence I'd bought with that one text message was exactly what I'd been hoping for. They never asked me for anything again.